Hello, welcome to the preview for Friday of Royal Ascot 2018. Currently just one race into Thursday's action. Hopefully you've had a few winners so far. It's definitely not easy, but hopefully we'll find one or two winners for tomorrow in this preview. It's another really tricky day, but I think some of the better racing is tomorrow. Some really interesting contests, so I'm looking forward to it. Probably two of the races that I'm looking forward to the most are on the Friday actually, so I'm glad I'm doing this preview. We would start off with the Albany Stakes at 2:30. The top of the market is dominated by Aidan O'Brien, unsurprisingly. He's got Fairyland, who is unbeaten in 2 starts, won a listed race at the Curragh last time. She looked a really sharp 2-year-old when she won on debut. She's by Kodiak. She's Kodiak's most expensive yearling, or what she was at the time. She was sold for over 900,000 guineas. So she's bred to be a really sharp 2-year-old, and she's already won a couple of starts. I'm not at all surprised to see Ryan Moore not on her though, and because Just Wonderful is in the race, and she, although she's also unbeaten in 1 and she hasn't quite achieved as much as Fairyland today, I think the potential with her on her second start is huge. She wasn't really fancied on debut at the Curragh. She was 9-2. A lot of O'Brien fillies and colts, in fact, they do need their first starts. It was a bit different with Fairyland in that she's a Kodiak that obviously was always going to be very precocious. But this Just Wonderful obviously wasn't really fancied, but she looked a really good prospect when she won that day. I think it's always worth taking note of these O'Brien horses that win first time out, these 2-year-olds. She's got an excellent pedigree. The Grand Dam is out of Urban Sea, who is related to the likes of See the Stars and Galileo. Her dam won ran just 3 times as a juvenile and improved nearly ever from start to start, and ended up rated 116 by Timeform. So she's, although we're saying that we were almost surprised that she won on debut, at the same time she's bred to be a really sharp 2-year-old. So I think Just Wonderful of the 2 O'Brien fillies is the more interesting. They're both about the same price at the moment. It's not a race that you can really bet in with any confidence, because there's loads of unknowns. Obviously they're all really lightly raced. The other one to mention, roughly 3rd favourite at the moment, is Main Edition, Mark Johnson's runner. She'll be top rated on the Timeform scale for this race, after winning at Windsor last time in a really good time. I think she's obviously exciting as well. She's got plenty of scope. Whether she'll be good enough to beat Just Wonderful and Fairyland, we'll have to wait and see. If I was going to have a bet, I think Just Wonderful would be that bet, just based on the impression she created first time out. But certainly not a race to be going overboard about, given that they're all unexposed fillies who have definitely got their best days ahead of them. We've got the King Edward 7th next, Group 2, 3:05. This race is not all that exciting, I didn't think, when I first had a look at it. Sometimes this race can be a really good one. It's usually won by horses that sort of also rounds in the Derby. Had Across the Stars in 2016, he was down the field in the Derby, and then Permian, who was also beaten in the Derby, fairly, ran okay in the Derby, but then came here and won this and improved. So the horse that fits that profile this time around is definitely Delano Roosevelt, who was 6th in the Derby at Epsom. And this drop in grade is often enough to see those class horses who have won, who have run and been seen to be good enough to run in the Derby, to then just take a little step back into a Group 2 and probably run a lot better. He was behind Saxon Warrior in the Beresford Stakes on his final juvenile start, and he's been beaten by the likes of Nelson and Hazardpour this season so far, both at Leopardstown in the Derrinstown, on the Latterly, sorry. Hazardpour ran 5th in the Derby, ran fine. Nelson obviously wasn't disgraced at all yesterday when running at Royal Ascot. So I think his form is pretty solid. He doesn't exactly set the pulse racing at 3-1 or whatever he is, but I think he's the most likely winner. Got the likes of Old Persian, who's been running well in listed races so far this season, and will probably improve again here. And Wells Fargo, who I was quite keen on coming into this season, but I think he might need softer ground. So I'd keep an eye on him further down the line. But both his wins at 2 were on slower ground. I think Farr acted very well on ground with cut in it, and he didn't really seem to fire in the Dante last time on his return, Wells Fargo. Overall, I think this can go to another horse that's sort of dropping down from the Derby, and that's Delano Roosevelt. He's the only one in here that ran in the Derby, so that's an interesting angle, I think. But he's 3-1, probably not the most exciting bet. Next race is the Commonwealth Cup, which is one of the races that I have been really looking forward to at Royal Ascot all season. I think it's an excellent addition to the racing calendar at Ascot. It's brought in 3 or 4 seasons ago now. It's produced some really good winners. I think that Sioux Nation could be the next sort of big winner to emerge from the race. I've had this race in mind for him all season, and I was just hoping that we got quick ground, because that is what he needs. He's 3 from 4 on good to firm ground. That includes the Norfolk Stakes here at Royal Ascot last season, and the Phoenix Stakes at Group 1 at the back end of his 2-year-old campaign. He bombed on heavy ground when he first came back this time around, and then back on better ground he was more like himself at Naas last time. He's just got the look and the scope and the size of a real sort of top sprinter. He's huge. He's the sort that will carry on getting better for some time to come, I imagine. We know he handles the track. He loves really quick ground. He's got that here. So I think he's essentially the one to be with in this race. And surprisingly enough, he's not favourite across the board. He's as big as 11-2. I think that's a really good bet. The current favourite is Equilateral, Charles Hill's runner, who was very impressive when winning a minor event at Doncaster last time, but this is a completely different kettle of fish. The form has been boosted, but Foxtrot Lady, who finished second, has only won handicaps. So that's just... although Equilateral absolutely smashed her by 8 lengths, I still think that his form is some way below Sioux Nation's, who looks a proper Group 1 sprinter in the making. So he'd be a confident selection in that for me, hopefully. And as long as the ground stays quick, which it should do, there's no rain or anything forecast as far as I know, I think he'll run really well in the Commonwealth Cup. Next up is the Coronation Stakes, that I think is potentially one of the best races of the week as well. You've got a number of questions to be answered here. First and foremost, Clemmie, who looked one of the most exciting 3-year-old prospects coming into this season, having been a Group 1 winner last season. I believe she was Galileo's first Group 1 winner over 6 furlongs, which is very significant for a sire who, as we well know, his progeny stay really, really well. So for her to be a Group 1 winner at 6 furlongs just shows how much potential she's got for stepping up in trip. She had a setback early in the campaign. She wasn't seen until running in the Irish 1000, where she finished behind Alpha Centauri. She was 13-2 that day. O'Brien had already said to everyone that she's going to need the run. She shaped like that. She made some sort of move into contention and then didn't sustain that and wasn't given a hard time at all. This is obviously was the plan, I guess. She's now had that run. She's going to be back for this. She has a lot of potential to go on this season over this sort of trip, and I think that it's a really interesting race with her at the head of the market. Obviously, as we mentioned, Alpha Centauri, who won that Irish 1000 guineas, runs here and reopposes. She was a big price that day, but it wasn't a massive shock. She was second in the Albany Stakes as a 2-year-old at Royal Ascot. She basically needs quick ground, and a lot of the runs after that Albany second were the ground just was too soft, and she basically wasn't suited by it. But the ground's come right for her again, so she'll run well, I think. The other really interesting one is Voracious for Sir Michael Stout. Very interesting that he's deciding to pitch her into a Group 1 first time up. we're used to Sir Michael Stout handling these fillies and indeed the colts as well, really patiently. But she did look like a Group 1 filly when she won at Newmarket last season. That form looks pretty good. Winter Lightning was second, 4 lengths back in second, and that one won the UAE 1,000 guineas over the winter. So it looks a solid bit of form. I think that the fact that Voracious is pitched into this level by Stout so early, I mean, he could have gone Group 3, Group 2. There are plenty of options for her, but the fact that she's come here having looked so good, I think might be quite significant. So I think at the prices, with some doubts about Clemmie, for all that she is a really, really interesting one for this, and a horse I was looking forward to for this season. She has had a setback. She's perhaps not had an ideal first part of the season. So I think at the prices, Voracious is sort of 8 or 9 to 1. I think she would be the most interesting bet in this for me if I was having a bet in the Coronation Stakes. The next race is extremely tough. The Sandringham, we've got 24 of them, nearly all of them unexposed fillies. It's obviously a 0 to 105 handicap. Lots of them haven't run in handicaps. They're just coming straight out of maidens. So you're looking for something that's been potentially given a silly mark first time up, and one because you will have to be extremely well handicapped, I think, to win this, just based on the level of competition and all the horses that are involved. I guess the one that I think could be on a pretty lenient mark is Agro Terra of Ed Walker's. Now, there's a number of reasons. There's a few reasons to think that a mark of 88 is fair. For White Sox, who she beat on last time at Windsor, has gone out and bolted up next time out at Goodwood, so that form looks good. The main reason, though, I think, is the fact that she came from right out the back in a steadily run race at Windsor, and it's so hard to come through from the rear at Windsor. It's such a track that favours front runners. So the fact that she came through off a really steadily run race, it was a gallop that wasn't true. They were quickening up from the front essentially, and she was able to quicken past everything from the back. I think that was quite taking. She'll be ridden by Jamie Spencer, who's got a really good record on the straight course at Ascot. It's a course that it suits waiting riders, as we've already seen a few times this week. It's quite hard to sort of make all and be prominent the whole way. So hold-up horses, especially in a massive field like this, where we're going to have a good pace, you'd have thought, hold-up horses are very much of interest, and we can count on Spencer having this one right out the back again, and he has got a really good record on this course. So Agro Terra would be my idea of the winner in the Sandringham. It's obviously an extremely open race. I could touch on 4 or 5 more of them, but I think that she could be worth a bet at sort of double figures. The final race of the day, the Duke of Edinburgh Stakes. Always like this race. It's a handicap where at the Royal Meeting where there aren't loads of unexposed ones. The same horses tend to run in this race, sort of not year in year out, but a few of them will turn up again and again for this. The likes of Appeared is running in it again. He finished second in it last year. I think Top Tug ran in it last year. A number of them did. The one that I quite like, she's not an unexposed horse by any means, but Clear Skies, I think there is an angle with her being in a strongly run race for the first time, because she's only had one race where it's been an end-to-end gallop in her whole career essentially. She spent a lot of her time running in small fields in Ireland where they don't go hard at all, and she's really suited by that because she's a strong travelling hold-up horse who essentially needs them to stop in front and come through with a late run. She's only had one race that's been a really truly end-to-end gallop, and that was at Dundalk when she was last in a handicap, and she won by 5.5 lengths, absolutely hosed up. She's since been running in group and listed races in Ireland in small fields. She's not been seen to best effect. She was really badly hampered on her last start, and also they've been on heavy ground as well, and I think that possibly faster ground will probably suit her, just given the way she travels. So I think that she's interesting at 20 to 1. I think you can get for her. I think she is definitely worth a small bet. we'll probably see a decent gallop. There's a number of front runners. There's 4 or 5 of them that can make the running. Hopefully it will be well run. She's got Ryan Moore on, who will sit out the back and know when to make the right move. It might be a bit scary watching her pick her way through from the back, because it'll probably be a bit of a bunch at the end as they all sort of vie for position, but we can rely on Ryan Moore hopefully to pick the right gaps. And I think she'll be hopefully travelling strongly 2 out, hopefully get a run, and she might go close. I don't think she's supremely well handicapped off 105, but I think that this race will really be run to suit her, and for that reason she might have a bit more to offer. So that is all 6 races. Hopefully we've found 1 or 2 winners there, and good luck with your punting.